Hi, friends from KWX Kenya. This is Sustainable Planet Show with Eder Zanetti. Over this week, we've been talking about the voluntary carbon markets. Since on the last week, we talked about the regulatory carbon markets, and the main reason was to liaise with you all on what is the main difference between the voluntary and the regulatory markets. And the point is that the regulatory markets, they hold many barriers that are imposed by the leaders of the countries present at the COPs meetings in order to assure that the groups of interest that support those leaders have their claims attended at the UNFCCC process. And on the voluntary markets, on the other hand, you have the freedom to use technology, to use creativity in order to remove the CO2 from the atmosphere or reduce its emissions in a way that is friendly to the atmosphere and not to the groups of interest behind the country leaders at the COPs. So that will be the main difference. Nonetheless, much of the technical work that is done at the UNFCCC process, and this goes into the IPCC and the technical panels, this work is useful for the voluntary markets as well. They build the basis over which the carbon markets are constructed, right? So this scientific basis for producing greenhouse gas inventories and MRV methodologies to generate carbon credits are the same. The IPCC and the technical panels work, it's valid to the regulatory market and both to the voluntary market as well, due to this attachment to build a science that is solid enough to support decision making. What happens is that on the decision making process of the COPs, groups of interest are involved, creating barriers for the market. And the group of interest that is represented on the voluntary market are the consumers. So they are pushing for a best behavior of the companies and not interested on fulfilling groups of interest agenda at the COPs. Let God's peace and the love that builds be our weapons on our daily struggle for justice. This is Eder Zanetti for KWX Kenya.